Everyone has a bright light inside of them that deserves to be seen by the world. That's why it's time to shine the light on the extraordinary who are accomplishing phenomenal things. This is the Shine Out Loud Show with Lillian Obogo.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever in the world you are, and welcome to another episode of the Shine Out Loud Show with me, Lillian Obogo. Now, tonight I have a woman who is known as she's the boss. Not because she's bossy, because no, she is a boss. Let me describe her as this. If she was a tool, she will be one of those multi-functional, I do everything really well tools. What she is an entrepreneur, a business growth consultant, an innovation expert, and a podcaster, just to name a few. She's award winning from the time she was in university, helping create events that spoke to individuals who look like her. This is a woman who is known for taking initiative and actually seeing opportunities in places where none existed. I'm talking about the incredible Daniella Genas. Hey, Daniela.
Hey, hey Lillian, thank you so much for having me and for that introduction.
You are welcome. Now, I am so glad to get you on my show because, they say turn around is fair play. I was on your show as well. So thank you for coming on the show, and it's a delight to have you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I said you are, if you were a tool, you'd be this multi-expression tool who does so many different things. But let's nail it down. You wear many hats. You're known as an entrepreneur. You're a business growth consultant. But what put you on this path? What put you in there and said, yeah, this is who I am?
Lots of trials and tribulations. So initially, I started my career, as you said, running an events company, which was a not-for-profit social enterprise. And we specialized in coordinating celebration events. And the idea was we would use the finance from those events to provide training for young people from disadvantaged and inner city communities.
Right.
What actually transpired was that I was really good at writing funding applications, was able to secure a large amount of funding back to back over a period of a couple of years, was able to grow the business without having to kind of focus on the commercial revenue streams.
Right.
At some point, the kind of bottom fell out. I stopped applying for funding because I really wanted to build the commercial side, but didn't necessarily have the proper strategy to do so. Didn't really enjoy the sales aspect and really didn't enjoy doing corporate events. My heart was always in the kind of community, cultural and arts events.
Right.
So having to try and deal with all these corporate clients that just wanted really boring, straight-laced events just wasn't for me. I went down the route of seeking investment to kind of really support the growth of the business from a more commercial aspect. Had investment kind of agreed in principle. And when I was due to sign off on that investment, the investor said, come back in 6 months and hit this specific sales target. At that point, I was, I think, 7 months pregnant. There was no way that I was going to hit the target. I'd gone from having 8 members of staff to 1 member of staff and me, and made the decision initially to close the business. But then what happened is some guy, just some random guy that was around, said he wanted to buy the business. So I sold it. And it was kind of a crazy turn of events. I had my daughter in July, sold the business in August, started my MBA in September.
Wow.
So that was 2015. It was a crazy time. And I kind of was in what I always call the wilderness, because I was studying and I was kind of in this kind of new motherhood space, but I was really grieving for the previous business because I had really big plans of what I wanted to do with it, and was feeling kind of like, okay, so I'm a mom, I'm studying, now what? Like, what am I going to do? And whilst I'd been running the first business, I was regularly getting contacted by other business owners asking me to support them with their kind of business strategies, etc., and to coach them. And whilst doing my MBA, I figured, why not do this as a proper business? And actually, I really sat down and thought about, what do I really enjoy doing? What am I passionate about? What am I good at doing? And what is going to help me kind of create a future for myself? And one of the key, I suppose, revelations that came to me was, I really want to be for others, what I needed for me when I was in that business. So a lot of the time when I was kind of struggling with certain areas, I would reach out to individuals to help me. And I always say they fitted into one of two camps. So it's either they had never ran a business but had lots of business qualifications, or they'd ran a business and didn't really, because they've just kind of ran the business, didn't necessarily have the formal understanding from a kind of structured perspective of the kind of frameworks and
Mhm.
methodologies that it took to build a successful business. I already had a master's in enterprise at this point, and I'd done a variety of training programs, including the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program.
Okay.
So I had kind of the tools and the frameworks, in addition to the fact that I'd gone through the experience of launching, growing, and then selling this business. So it kind of seemed like the obvious thing to do, to come down this route. And to be honest, it's the best move I think I could have ever made, because I would say that I'm living, not even to be corny, but I'm living my best life right now. Like, life is good. I wake up every day and I'm happy and I'm excited to be working with my clients and to be kind of making an impact in this space and being able to provide the support that I felt was missing, because I kind of merged those two worlds. I have the educational background, but I also have the experience background, and can kind of see how the two can be used to help people build profitable, sustainable, systems driven businesses. And that's kind of what I focus on.
Okay, now that is, oh my God, that is really powerful, because you talk about, you create a business based on the gap, based on where you were thinking, okay, I needed the support and I needed the right element of support. And like you said, you were marrying two elements of, I've had the practical skills and now I have the educational skills underneath to merge, and merging both of them together to actually create solid businesses, which is actually what we need. We need those practical skills, but we also need the, like you said, the frameworks to help underpin everything we do. Now,
Mm-hmm.
you talk openly about your experience with imposter syndrome during the early part of your entrepreneurial journey. How
Mm-hmm.
did you, I don't want to say overcome it, because we know we never fully overcome it. How did you learn to sidestep and deal with it?
So there was a few techniques that I used. The first one was really sitting down and having a harsh conversation with myself and asking myself, and I tell my clients to do this, are people lying? So when people say, Daniela, you inspired me to do this. Daniela, we're really proud of you for doing that. Daniela, here is an award for this.
Mhm.
Are all of these people lying to me? And what is the chances, or what are the chances that all of these people are just making it up? So that was the first thing that I started to ask myself. And then the second question was, are you lying? So there was a period, particularly between 2012 and 2014, where I was winning awards quite regularly. I think I won like 5 awards in a 2-year period. And one of them was well, two of them, in fact, were really quite big and prestigious awards in Birmingham, where I live.
Right.
I also then was being featured in the local and national press. Um, and it was very intense. And I remember specifically when I won one of the biggest awards, thinking, oh my gosh, they're going to find me out. They're going to realize that I'm a fraud. They're going to take back the award. And oh my gosh, it's going to be so humiliating. And again, I had to ask myself, but did you lie? Because for that award, somebody nominated me. And to this day, I don't know who it was actually. But I then had to go and present to a panel.
Right.
And did I lie in that panel? No, I didn't. So if they've said that you are the winner, then you need to accept that you were good enough to win. And there's some of the conversations that I really had to start having with myself. And one of the other things that I started to do a little bit latterly, actually, was to start to document all of the feedback that I was getting. So if somebody would send me a testimonial, or even just messages to say, oh my gosh, that was so amazing, I started to collect them and put them in a document. And when I was feeling that, those levels of kind of imposter syndrome, I'd go back and read the document again. Are those people lying? Did you do something that wasn't real? Is this a figment of their or your imagination? No. And therefore accept it. And I would say, you said before that you never kind of get over imposter syndrome, but I would say this year, and well, I started my kind of entrepreneurial journey in 2007. It's now 2021. But in 2021, I really feel that I've made headway. I don't think it's something, as you said, that's ever going to completely go, but I really feel comfortable and confident in really acknowledging and sitting in the greatness of the things that I've accomplished and achieved, and not in a, and this is where again we have to, I'm saying it, but I'm doing the opposite, because I want to, my reaction is to say I'm not being a big head, I'm not being egotistical, and we need to stop doing that. I recognize that there is greatness in what I do, and people are inspired by that, and I'm comfortable with it. And actually, by having that kind of shift in mindset, I've seen, particularly this year, the biggest growth in my business thus far. Last month in May was my most successful month yet, and I believe that that's because I've really started shouting about the results that I've obtained with my clients, and I've been comfortable in doing that. Whereas before, I'm like, oh yeah, I help, but I don't want people to think that
You
it
know
was
what?
all me.
This you see what you've just said? This we have to talk about.
Hmm.
That then you've just touched on. I think I'm gonna move some of the stuff for that questions I want to ask you onto that
Hmm.
then, because the reason why that then is important, because right now there's an athlete who is suffering because of she's feeling undermined, and
Hmm.
we've been told, especially as women of color, to kind of
Hmm.
that then let's can Danielle, can we be real and talk about that one?
Oh yes, of course.
Because that thing you just said where you go, I don't want to, I'm really good, but I don't want people to think I'm a big head. But yet we know people who are less gifted, less
Mhm.
able, and they are crowing from morning to night, letting people know just how great they are. Some of
Mhm.
them have actually been presidents and prime ministers, but we won't mention
Oh
names.
yes. And I think that's the thing. That's another thing I think that's also came and slapped me in the face. Probably towards the end of last year, I was looking around and seeing people that were shouting way louder than me with no results. And I'm sat here like, actually, I've worked with this company, and this company is turning over 7 figures. And I'm working with this company. This company started at 5 figures, and now they're at 6 figures, and they're about to be 7 figures. And I've worked with all these individuals who, when they came to me, were nervous, were scared, and they've launched their businesses, they've launched new products, they've launched new services, they've launched their personal brand and been on the TV, and all of these things that I have contributed to. And again, I would never say I made anybody, because I think that is where the line gets crossed.
Yeah.
Um, but I am comfortable in saying, because they tell me that I have heavily impacted a lot of the outcomes for the clients that I've worked with. So why am I sitting here afraid to share that when there's other people that haven't done half or even a quarter of what I've done, and they're screaming it from the rooftops? And people are, I suppose, one of the interesting things that happened is two people in a short period of time came to me and said that before coming to me, they'd approached one of my competitors, but actually having spoken to the competitor, they realized that it was all kind of smoke and mirrors. They didn't have any results, and I knew exactly who the competitor was. And I said to myself, well, what made you go to them before you came to me? And they were saying, because they shout louder than you. And they didn't say that, but that's essentially what they
Yeah.
said. And it really made me stop and say, well, I need to start making some noise about this. And I need to be comfortable with the fact that somebody could turn around and say, she's got a big head, she thinks that she's great. But actually, yeah, I do think that I'm great, because guess what? I am, and I get the results. And I need to be comfortable with that and know that not everybody's going to like me. But even if I'm sitting there quietly breathing away and not saying anything, somebody would say that anyway. So what difference does it make? At least do it and let people say it while you're making some money and making a name for yourself.
Exactly. And I think the phrase I heard yesterday, no one can light a candle to me, was the statement Venus Williams made.
Hmm.
If you know you're good, why hide it? And they're doing their thing, and no one can light a candle to what you're doing.
Hmm.
So we have to get comfortable speaking up and owning our stuff and
Hmm.
owning our presence and owning our power. And I think that topic is so crucial right now for us as women, whether we are in a 9 to 5, whether we are starting our entrepreneurial journey, or like you're established, you've sold 2 businesses and are growing other people's businesses. Is something I think as women we need to start l- checking ourselves for
Hmm.
daily.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree.
Yeah. So yeah. So thank you for bringing that up, because that is something that's like, yeah, we need to start checking ourselves when we go into the world. Are we deliberately shrinking? Are we deliberately hiding? Are we allowing other people less skilled than us to actually go into the world and shine their light? But we want to go. And I think in a world of 7 billion people, not everybody's gonna like you. And if 1% out of 7 billion likes you, that's a lot of people.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
and that's all you need. So let's keep going. So, I think when we look at the fact that you sold a business, you have gone through different aspects of trying to start a business, trying to get investment. I think the question is, what are the keys to growing a sustainable business? Should a woman entrepreneur actually start putting in place? What are the keys that we need to have as women in business so our businesses are sustainable?
So I've developed something called the visa framework, and that's something that I follow with all of my clients, and that I've seen has garnered results in terms of growth and sustained growth, because I think that's really important. And I'm going to break down the key kind of facets of that, and this for me is what it takes for anyone, but as well as women, to run a business that is sustainable and in particular not reliant on them, because I think that's key also.
Yeah.
So the first thing is to have a clearly defined and compelling vision. A lot of us start out in business and we kind of have this idea that we want to be a success and we want to build a big business, but we don't really have clarity on what that looks like.
Mhm.
And what I advocate for is really breaking that down into a time frame. So I typically say 3 years as the kind of starting point, because I think 10 years, you can have a 10-year vision, but there's no point spending too much time on that because it's so far away. We don't even know what's going to happen in society from one month to the next to be
Exactly.
planning that far in advance. But I would say start with your 3 years and break that down into great detail. What does life look like for you in this business, or even in your career, because it works for your career also? What does it look like in 3 years? So what am I doing? um, how much money am I earning? How much money is the business turning over? Who is working for me? And really break it down as though you're there in that moment, and
Right.
then reverse engineer it. So what do I need to do this year, next year, and the year after that, so that at the end of that 3 years, my life is like, and my business, because I feel like you can't look at one without the other. Your business is going to inform your life, and your life is going to impact your business.
Yeah.
What do I want my business and my life to look like and be like at the end of those 3 years? And this is how I make it happen.
Okay.
And I want to be clear as well. I don't, when I say break down a vision, I don't mean just do a vision board and put pretty pictures of planes and yachts and mansions on the wall,
I
because
was waiting for that because I know you do not like vision boards.
I really need to stop because it's getting quite bad, because everybody keeps saying that. We know you hate them. No,
So
no.
I was waiting. I was like, at some point, she's gonna crack out the "I hate vision boards." I was like,
I can't help it.
it's gonna come out. You don't have to ask the question.
Yeah, no, and I have to keep saying it's not that I hate vision boards, it's that I hate vision boards in isolation. And I think so many people only have the vision board and they don't have
Not the
anything else.
practical stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So I say have your vision. Once you've broken that down and written it down, then you put up the pretty pictures, but also then you make sure that you're clear on the goals. What are the goals that you need to be achieving each year to actualize that vision? And what are the actions that you need to complete to achieve the goals? And that's really the most important thing. Otherwise, it's just a dream. A dream, like a vision without a plan, is really just a dream and like a hope and a prayer. And you're not going to build a sustainable business that way. And when you're looking at that vision, you really need to be clear on what are the resources that you need, what are the risks that are going to potentially impact you. So really you're creating your blueprint for success. Now that again on its own is not going to be sufficient. So then we have I in vision is innovation. So you need to be making sure that you're focusing on coming up with new ways of working, developing new products and services, innovating your processes within the business so that you're always remaining current and fresh and you're not getting stale. Innovate how you deal with your customers and clients, innovate the customer service process. Innovation should be at the core of what you do. If you want longevity, you cannot keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. And we've seen so many businesses that have refused to innovate and have fallen by the wayside. Huge, big businesses that we never would have thought would have gone out of business. So therefore, why do you think as a small business that you can continue doing the same things over and over again and it's not going to impact you?
Yeah.
A few examples, or my favorite example is Blockbuster. I remember growing up with Blockbuster. It wouldn't have occurred to me that Blockbuster wouldn't have still been here. And actually, Blockbuster could have still been here if they innovated.
Yes.
Blockbuster used to, for those who don't know, Blockbuster used to do VHS not
Yeah.
renting.
Now you see now you're really confusing them because they're like, what's a
What's
VHS?
a VHS?
Listen,
I can't
we do
explain
not
that.
have time to actually educate them on what a video cassette player. I mean,
But
most of them haven't seen a DVD.
well, yeah, that's true. Well, there was a place that used to go and you'd hire something and watch videos, and then you'd have to walk and take it back. It was
And
at
then
the
you have to
time. It was
rewind it.
yeah, and make sure it's at the beginning before you take it back. It was great at the time. Netflix, as far as I'm aware, Netflix approached them and said, "Look, let's take this online." They said no, and now we have Netflix and we don't have Blockbuster. I'm sure there's more detail than that, but essentially that's the story. And therefore, as a business, you need to keep your eye on the ball, what's going on outside the business, in society, what changes are being made that you need to respond to, but also what's happening internally in your industry and in your business. So innovation is the second part. Strategy is another. So we recognize what's going on. We need to look at being more strategic. So a lot of business owners focus on the day-to-day operational activity and get caught up in responding to emails, making sales calls, and just doing things that are going to give you a kind of an immediate outcome right now.
Mhm.
And what you need to do if you're trying to be a business that grows and a business that is sustainable is to have a forward thinking approach. So looking at strategy, what are the kind of methods that you need to utilize to achieve that business success, to achieve the vision. So if it's that a goal of yours is to be a key person of influence within your space, what are the strategies that you're going to employ to be able to achieve that? So is it going to be through collaborations? Is it going to be through PR? What are you going to do? And making sure that you're continually looking at strategies and refining them. And part of strategy is also looking at the external environment. So again, the same thing that you kind of do with innovation, you need to do with strategy as well. And innovation is part of your strategy. So um, none of these things are in silo. Again, they're all interconnected. Then the most important part is systems and processes.
Okay.
So again, a lot of us want to start businesses, we want our businesses to be successful, but we don't put the foundations in place. We believe that when the business gets big enough, we'll sort all of that stuff out, when actually you should be starting with the end in mind, starting with the idea that this business is going to grow and this business is going to be successful. And in order to facilitate that growth, I need to make sure that I've got the right systems in place, and I need to make sure I'm documenting my processes. So your processes is kind of the how you do things. And so many people leave it too late. The business starts to grow, they bring in staff, and then they want the staff to understand what they're supposed to do, but there's nothing documented.
Right.
um, the business is then inefficient. It takes ages to onboard a new member of staff because you've got no system for your recruitment, you've got no system for onboarding, you've got no system or processes for managing staff, for even exiting staff. And then what some people find is that actually as a business grows, the business becomes more of a burden and a hindrance, and taking on staff becomes more of a burden and a hindrance, because actually you're spending so much time explaining to that, this is how you do this has happened, oh gosh, you need to do this. Whereas actually if you've got systems and processes documented, mapped out, get an operations manual, that's really key. Then it's quick, you can quickly onboard people, you're maintaining consistency, quality, the output is the same, it's not changing depending on who's doing it. Your clients and your customers are going to receive a certain level of quality and consistency, which then hopefully means that they're going to keep on coming back.
Right.
So that's really key. And then the final thing is accountability. Entrepreneurship is a lonely road. And even with the best will in the world, if you're doing it on your own, you're going to drop a ball. There's going to be times where you're feeling kind of lack of motivation. You're going to miss things. So I always say, a great example that I love to give is when you write something and you read it back and you add words in that are not written on the paper, because you know in your head that's what's supposed to be there. So you know, like you miss the word the or and, but you're reading it back and you add it in your brain, even though it's
But
not on
not.
the paper. When you get an external copywriter, they will spot that that word is missing and they'll add it back. And for me, accountability kind of works that way. You know what you need to do and you're probably thinking that you're doing it, but actually the accountability person, whether that be a coach or it could be an accountability partner, whoever it is, will identify where you've missed out the and the and. But they will also help to motivate you, to push you, and identify opportunities that you may miss. And from my experience, the entrepreneurs that I've worked with that have gone the furthest are those that really kind of buy into this idea of accountability. So they have their visions, they are focused on innovation, they look at strategies for selling, for marketing, for promoting, etc. They have systems and processes, and they're held accountable by an external person or body. And for me, that's how you build they're the kind of core bits of how you build a sustainable, successful growth business, essentially.
And that is really an amazing framework. And I think for anybody, whether, like you said, whether male or female, as an entrepreneur, I think this is actually crucial to have, because some of us, like you said, we jump in feet first and then we kind of wade in the water to we're kind of up to eyeballs and then think, oh, should have thought. So I think this is actually a really good place to start. And even I think this can actually even be applied to careers as well, because you can do the same thing for those who are in the 9 to 5 and wanting to grow their careers and having this same kind of mindset for growth as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at what all the things that you do, and I did mention that you are also a podcaster, and you have the She's the Boss in
Mm-hmm.
terms of your podcast. How
Yeah.
did that journey begin?
So it was actually a research project. So at university, when I was doing my MBA, my final dissertation and project was a business plan for She's the Boss. It was called something else at the time. And really the focus was to work with female entrepreneurs.
Right.
So in order to kind of prove that there was a need, I needed to go out and speak with female entrepreneurs. So I did a call and asked who wants to kind of contribute to my dissertation, and started doing interviews. And I was doing the interviews via Zoom at that point. And this is funny because obviously the lockdown, everybody started using Zoom, but I was using Zoom from 2017 for my interviews because I preferred it to the other name brand that I'm not going to mention, because I could screen record much more easily.
Right.
And I think it was after the first interview, I sat and I listened back to it, and I was like, this is really powerful. I think this would really work as kind of content. So I went back to the lady that I'd interviewed and asked her, would you mind if I put this on my YouTube channel? And she was like, yeah, great, do it. My first degree was in media and communication, so I had some editing skills. I bought an editing package and edited it and put it on YouTube. And then for each subsequent interview, I asked them, do you mind if I also use this on YouTube? So I think the total amount that I did for the dissertation was like 8, but then I just continued it. And I would say probably for the first 2 years, I was very inconsistent. So I kind of put the ones up that I'd done for the dissertation. And then every so often I'd ask if I came across somebody, I said, would you mind being on my channel? And really over the last kind of year and a half, I've been trying to be much more consistent. So particularly last year, I was doing an interview every week. So primarily they're on YouTube at the moment, but somebody is actually taking all the audio and turning them into a podcast that can go on Spotify, which is way overdue because I've done like 100 interviews now. But thank you. It's been such an amazing journey, and what has been beautiful is I have learned so much from the women that I have interviewed, and also I've been able to spot themes and trends. So one of the topics that always comes out is around burnout. There's so many women that are in business that have suffered from burnout or in the process of burnout or about to suffer from burnout. And that's been really interesting in terms of then how I support my clients, because I recognize that this is a thing within the industry, within kind of entrepreneurship generally.
Right.
So there's been lots of different themes. Obviously, imposter syndrome has been another one. But as I said, initially it was just to add to my dissertation, but it's actually turned into something that I really love, I really enjoy, and I've personally taken so much value from.
Awesome. And so, and I enjoyed being a guest on it, and I enjoyed sharing. And I've actually gone on and watched a couple of them as well. And you have some really amazing guests on there. So guys, if you want the link, we'll put the link down below so that you can get it, and also go and have a watch, because you never know whether you could actually be the next person on Daniella's show, but also there's a lot of information to learn from there. And speaking of interviews, your interview for your Alumni of the Year and the BBC Women's Hour, you talk about mentorship, and you talk
Mm-hmm.
about the mentorship that you receive as being vital to your success. So
Mm-hmm.
when we think about it, what are, for us, and I'm classing it for women, but actually I think this is open for women and men, but what are the top 3 actions that we need to implement today to get great mentors on our side?
I think identify first why we need one. And I think that's important. So I've had people approach me and say, I need your help. And when I ask them, what do you want to achieve? What's the outcome that you're looking for? Then I don't know, I just need some help. So I think really be very clear
Yes.
on what the outcome is that you want, because once you're able to determine the outcome, then you're able to determine the type of person that you need to mentor you. And in addition to the outcome, also how do you want the relationship to be? So do you want a formal mentor that you're going to meet with every couple of weeks or every month, or do you want someone that you're going to check in with every couple of months?
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
there's also a difference in kind of whichever one you feel like you need. And then once you're clear on that, then you can start to think about the types of person that you want and the kind of credentials that they need to have, the type of personality that they need to have for you guys to kind of vibe off each other, because you don't want somebody that you don't vibe with.
No.
And then I would say create a hit list. So identify the people, and ask. I think a lot of the time we can be really, I don't want to say shy, but it's kind of unsure. If we ask, they're going to say no. Well, then they say no. If you don't ask, then it's no anyway, because you didn't ask.
Yeah.
But also don't do it if it's a free mentor that you want. You need to make sure that you're able to demonstrate why they should give up their time to support and help you. That's key. If it's paid mentorship, then you need to make sure that they're the right person for you to invest in, for you to get the outcomes. And then you need to make sure that you're very clear again on communicating with them the outcomes that you kind of want and expect, and also what you're going to be willing to do, because it's not a one-sided thing, to be able to achieve those outcomes. And I think that's really the most important thing. And when you're reaching out, sometimes people think the best way is to say, "Oh, can I take you for a coffee?" And for some people that works. For me, that doesn't, because I need to know what. For a start, I don't drink coffee, so that's problem number one. But I also need to understand what is the point of this. So
Yeah.
trying to trick people into going out for coffee, and then when they're, "Oh, will you be my mentor?" I don't think that works, and it definitely doesn't work for me. Be very clear from the outset. This is where I'm at. This is what I'm looking for. This is the value that I can add if it is some sort of mutual thing, or if it is kind of more one-sided. This is the promise that I will make to you, and approach it in a kind of open and honest way, so that you don't irritate people, and be nice. I think that's really the
Okay.
key thing. Just be nice.
Be nice about it, especially if they say no, because they're
You
bound.
never know.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Okay, so I like these 3 points, and I think this is something that we need to actually know what we're going in for, especially when we're approaching people. And like you said, if you're going for someone's free time, you want to say, why should they give up their time for you? You
Mhm.
have to be able to know what you want. Now, also going back, because I was doing some research, I was looking at your blog from March, titled "The Big Business Energy."
Mhm.
And you talk about the misconceptions that small business owners work under. What is the one misconception that small business owners hold, and how can we break it?
That's a good question. Um, I think it kind of goes back to what I said before about systems and processes, really, that they don't. I think the main thing is that they shouldn't start operating like a successful business until they're a successful business. And
Right.
I think that shoots so many small business owners in the foot, because they think it's okay if I'm a bit slapdash. It's okay if I don't spend time understanding who my customers or my clients are. It's okay if I don't look at my finances and I don't track spending and I don't track sales. It's okay if I don't have my processes in place. It's okay if I don't have the proper systems to manage certain things, because I'm small. When I get bigger, I'll sort it out. And actually, if you want to get bigger, sort it out
Yeah.
first. That will facilitate the growth. And I think that's one of the key misconceptions that time and time again, I have those conversations with the clients that I work with, and I'm like, well, what are you waiting for? Oh, when I'm bigger, I'll do that. No, no, you need to do it now. Invest now,
Mm.
so that you're able to accelerate the growth, and that you're not kind of overwhelmed. Because what sometimes happens, and there's a story I shared on LinkedIn, or like an article I shared on LinkedIn, I think it was last week, about this guy, something farm foods, I can't remember what it's called, but some sort of healthy produce, organic food company. And the business grew really, really, really quickly. And a lot of a misconception again that a lot of small businesses have: if I can just get more sales, if I can just double triple my sales, then all of my problems are over. And this guy, he like quadrupled his sales over and over again, and then found himself in a position that actually, because he didn't have the right kind of financial structures in place, because he didn't have the right logistical kind of infrastructure in place, he ended up in a situation where we had all of these sales to service, but wasn't able to get the products made, because he couldn't afford to pay for the products. He couldn't afford for the logistics company to then ship the products. So he then started to try and find investment. The investors pulled out, and it just turned into a nightmare, and the business went bust. And um, I've seen that happen on a much smaller scale, but that for me was the biggest scale, because I think one of his contracts was like £350,000 dollars. He was from America. $350,000. And you'd think if you get a $350,000 contract, we're made. Life is
Exactly.
good,
Yeah,
business
exactly.
is good. But for him, it was the total opposite, and it spelt the end of his business. And again, in my opinion, obviously I haven't met him or done any serious analysis, but from an anecdotal perspective, it seems to me that he probably fell into that same trap. I will sort it out when it happens. But it happened, and now you're trying to sort it out and it's too late. So scenario planning, so kind of big business energy, includes scenario planning. So looking at what happens if this happens, and making sure that you've got the structures, the plans in place to really accommodate and manage that growth, so that you don't end up in a position where you achieved like your lifelong dream of getting some sort of like £1 million contract, and then a month later you're bust.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Plan, put the scenarios in place, project manage your business, get all the systems, stop acting like a small business and treat yourself like a business in growth.
I've also got merchandise that says big business energy that I've started to say, because I'm like, people really need to get with the program with this. Don't wait until you're a big business. Act and operate as though you're a big business
As if,
now, so
yes.
that you can become a big business.
Okay. All right. I like this. I like this. So I want to ask you, in terms of, you've worked on a lot of businesses, you've done a lot of things. Who influences you?
Um, Again, great question. There's so many people that influence me. So I have my own coach, Hadi Falivi. She's a publicity specialist, and she gives me the kick up the backside that I need, to be honest. And I would say she's been really instrumental in helping me achieve the level of growth that I've achieved this year, because she doesn't take any foolishness. Like, I was selling, there was a service I was selling, I think it was the beginning of last year, for kind of, I think it was like £225. I'm selling the same service right now for £1,000, and selling a lot of it. And that was because she said, this is stupid, sort it out. So she has a really positive influence on me. In addition to my clients, seeing the growth of my clients really inspires and motivates me, because I'm saying to myself, well, I'm telling them to do X, Y, and Z. I'm also hearing them say that they're going to do X, Y, and Z, whether it's what I've said or what they thought of themselves. And they're achieving all of this success and all of this growth. Then therefore, so can I. So I've got to catch up. I can't sit back and be preaching this stuff and not practicing it myself. So I'd say they're really kind of big influences. One of my clients in particular has achieved phenomenal growth. And it was funny because when we met initially, she really reminded me of me, but just a smarter, just a smarter version. She was definitely smarter than me. She was like 20 something, doing some sort of economics postgraduate, something that just was a bit over my head. And seeing the growth from 2019 when we met to 2021, the growth of the business, but also the growth of her as an entrepreneur, really, really inspires me and really makes me proud to do what I do. So there's loads of them, but that one in particular, really, I'm just like, I'm so proud to see that this has happened. And then I suppose my family as well. Like, my family really encouraged me, pushed me. My husband, my daughter, like my daughter walks around. So my mantra for my business is think big, take action, keep pushing. I've also got that on a t-shirt and a hoodie and a sweater if you're interested. But she walks around the house saying it. So she'll be like, think big, take action, keep pushing. And I'm like, well, if she's saying this at 5, like, I have to, like, we have to do it. And she'll tell people, my mom is a boss, so I'm going to be a boss. And that really kind of motivates and encourages me to keep doing what I'm doing and continue to strive to achieve.
That's amazing, especially for the 5-year-old. She's seen it live, and so she's already embedding it into her DNA. Like, this is possible for mommy, so it's possible for me. So I always love that. All right, so you've talked about burnout, and you talked about being able to spot the trends now. So let me ask you this: what are the top 2 tips that you can give women to actually become more resilient to prevent burnout?
The first thing is to know your limits, and know your body. I think that's really important. So I know my body. When I start to go through sustained periods of feeling tired, I respond accordingly. I don't keep pushing through it. So, as I said, the end of my mantra is keep pushing, but keep pushing sometimes means lie down so that you can keep pushing. So I'm a huge advocate for rest, but that rest needs to come when you know that you need it. And I think sometimes we try to push through the body's signals telling us rest and relax, because we need to achieve this, we need to achieve that. And actually, you're not going to really be operating at maximum kind of output anyway if you're exhausted and if you're run down. So rest for me is key. And that's the first thing. The second thing is outsource whatever it is that you can outsource. And not everybody's in a financial position to outsource everything, and I'm not for any second making the assumption that everybody is, but there's certain things that you probably can outsource. So and even if it's not outsourced, you can just get somebody else to help you with. So ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. If it is that you have to rope your husband into doing something, or your friend, or whatever, if you're feeling that you're at that kind of point that this is a bit too much, ask for help. I think sometimes we try to, as women, and especially as mothers as well, because I think mums really have this kind of complex that I have to be a superwoman, but women generally, we have to try and do everything. You don't
Yeah.
have to do, you don't.
I mean, there's all, if you any social media meme posts is like, you have to be that woman that gets up and push and grind. And if you're not grinding, you're going to be hungry and destitute and all.
Yeah, like I hate that thing that you see, you can rest when you're dead.
Exactly. I like to rest
I want
now.
to rest now. I don't want to be dead.
I don't have to be dead to rest.
Am I trying to get to being dead faster? No. So I'm very open on my social media. I'll say I spent the day in bed. I want to go to the spa, although I haven't booked it yet. I need to book it in. I do my yoga, and I don't fall into this hustle hard culture. And people will say, "Oh my gosh, Daniella, you're doing so many things, and every day on your social media, you're doing this, you're doing that." But I'm also lying in my bed. I spend days just working in bed, and I will do an hour, then I'll watch the TV, I might read a book, then I'll do some more work. And that's how I operate. I work on some weekends, and people like, again, you don't ever get time to rest. You always go, go, go. If I work on a Saturday morning, then on a Monday morning, I'm in bed relaxing because I worked on Saturday morning. I
Yeah.
don't, and also, again, I know the limits of my body. So this week, for example, has been a very intense week. Like I've been doing a lot. And I booked in to have a PT session tomorrow because I have a personal trainer, because during lockdown I put on a stone and that's not acceptable. So I've been working with a personal trainer. I've lost it, but now I'm trying to stay in kind of keeping that momentum of keeping fit. But after we come off this, I'm going to cancel it because I've realized I'm tired and I've got something else tomorrow evening. And does it make sense for me to be working out, getting exhausted, to then try and have to go and deliver? But that means next week I know that I need to do 3 PT sessions for the week because I haven't done 3 this week. And that's just the way I balance it. And again, I just think that we're too afraid sometimes to cancel. We're too afraid to say no. We're too afraid to just lie down and have a rest. We're too focused on being the best of everything. And you can't be the best of everything at all the time. It's not possible.
And you can't be the best at anything if you're burnt out, tired, exhausted, and your brain is frazzled, and you're looking like this when you're looking at your computer, because your brain is literally going off. Alarms are going off in your brain because it's tired. You can't be anything.
And I don't think people take it seriously enough. And there's quite a few interviews, sorry, that I've done on She's the Boss, where people share their experiences of burnout. And I think sometimes people think burnout, oh, you
Yeah,
feel
no,
really tired.
you feel tired.
Yeah,
Burnout,
but
it's
it's
like,
serious. I had somebody speak, Henneke Watkins Porter. She's a podcaster from Jamaica. I interviewed her. She said that she collapsed because of burnout. I had another lady, Melissa Shervington. She is a trainer, lost her voice for a month, couldn't speak. I had somebody else, I can't remember who it was, but Yvette Ankara.
yes, she became very ill.
She became very, very ill. So this is serious.
Burnout is serious. I remember when I was going through my having heart palpitations, and that was just one of the symptoms. I've gone through burnout, and I don't care what anybody tells me. I know autoimmune deficiency is also linked to burnout. And so when we are pushing our adrenal systems, when we're pushing our body to a point that it breaks, but we haven't noticed because we're still going black doesn't crack. We haven't noticed that it's cracked, but it's just cracked where you can't see it. And then you're going, yeah, I'm tired. But it's not just you're tired, you are burnt out because you've burnt candles and you burn it to the middle. And it's like,
and it's a lifelong thing. When you have kind of adrenal issues, stuff like ME, fibromyalgia, those things stay with you. So it's not, I'm going to have a bit of sleep and I'll be fine. These are things that will last. So you need to take care of it before it gets to that point.
Exactly. So I think, maybe we just need to have a show on burnout and get a few of us together and talk about burnout so people get to understand.
Mm.
That burnout is not, I need a nap.
Oh, oops, I think she's been kicked off. She's not on the call anymore.
Well, this is interesting.
A computer, it's like a computer probably kicked her off.
Oh, that is really unfortunate. It was sad. I was actually waiting to ask the question after the show. I had posted in a side chat with her about burnout. But that sucks. Oh, and she's just now understanding. Yeah, she doesn't recognize. Yeah, I'm getting messages now. She did not know that she was not there. This is like this show, or the sets of shows that you two have done so far definitely have got to be a book or a podcast on their own. Just about.
It's the gremlins. The gremlins don't want us to be great.
Yeah, when things wrong.
Okay.
I'm
actually lost for words now. This is between the both of us, and it's still recorded. So yeah, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna stop the recording and restart.
Okay. From the